Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting video. I'm absolutely crazy about this one because we're talking about the legendary Assassin's Creed game that almost was the rumored Assassin's Creed Civil War. We've got a wild story of cancellation, controversy, and a glimmer of hope thanks to a big corporate shakeup. In this video, we'll break down everything we know about this cancelled project, why Ubisoft scrapped it, what the game was supposed to be, and whether it might rise from the ashes. We'll even speculate on what the story and gameplay could have been like, and could still be if we're lucky. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's jump right into it. Let's start with the facts. In 2025, reports leaked that Ubisoft had internally cancelled an Assassin's Creed project set in the American Civil War era. This project, never officially announced but codenamed Project Scarlet internally, was being led by Ubisoft Quebec, the studio behind AC Odyssey and Syndicate, and directed by Scott Phillips. It was envisioned as the next big, open-world RPG-style Assassin's Creed, tentatively aiming for a 2027 release. In other words, this wasn't a small spin-off. It was poised to be a major installment in the series. So what was Assassin's Creed Civil War going to be about? According to insider reports, the game would have been set during and after the American Civil War in the Reconstruction era of the 1860s to 1870s. And get this, you would play as a former slave-turned-assassin, a black man who had been enslaved in the South, gained his freedom, and journeyed west to start a new life. Out on the western frontier, he'd cross paths with the Assassin Brotherhood, train as an assassin, and eventually return to the South to fight oppressors. The reported storyline had him confronting none other than the Ku Klux Klan and other groups threatening the peace during Reconstruction. Yeah, that's how bold and heavy-hitting the concept was. An Assassin's Creed where you take on the KKK in the 1870s? It sounds absolutely epic and like nothing we've seen in the franchise before. It would have tackled one of the darkest chapters of American history head-on, weaving the Assassin versus Templar narrative into real struggles of that era. Developers inside Ubisoft were reportedly excited about the project, feeling it had potential to make a positive social impact. The themes of freedom, justice, and rebellion in Reconstruction America would have fit perfectly with Assassin's Creed's overarching themes of fighting oppression for freedom. From a creative standpoint, this could have been a groundbreaking story. However, and here's the bad news, Ubisoft leadership ultimately pulled the plug in mid-2024. The project was shelved around July 2024 when it was still only in a concept phase. Why would they cancel such a promising game? According to multiple sources, the decision came down to concerns that the subject matter was too political for the current climate. One developer explained that tackling the aftermath of the Civil War, with a black protagonist taking on the KKK, was seen as too political in a country too unstable by Ubisoft's higher-ups. Basically, they feared the game's content might spark controversy or backlash in the United States' polarized environment. To understand Ubisoft's caution, we need to note what was happening at the time. In early 2024, the company had revealed Assassin's Creed Shadows, a title featuring Yasuke, a black samurai, as a character, which unfortunately drew some racist backlash from a subset of online fans. That ugliness likely spooked the executives. On top of that, the broader political climate in the US was, and is, very tense. Debates over history, racism, and social justice are lightning rods. Ubisoft's leadership has a track record of trying to avoid overt political statements in their games. CEO Yves Guillemot even said the company's goal is not to push any specific agenda. So the Civil War era Assassin's Creed, no matter how cool and meaningful it might be, was viewed as a risk. Ubisoft was worried it would stir up exactly the kind of controversy they didn't want to deal with. In short, they decided to play it safe. It didn't help that 2024 was a rough year for Ubisoft financially and creatively. The company was grappling with game delays, underwhelming sales of some titles, and a sagging stock price. One report noted that Ubisoft's situation in 2024 was absolutely dire, which made the top brass even more risk-averse. A source said that 5 or 6 years ago, when Ubisoft was riding high on big hits, they might have been braver, but in 2024 they were in no shape to gamble on a potentially controversial project. So sadly, Assassin's Creed Civil War became a casualty of this cautious approach. The game was never officially announced to the public, and for a while it seemed like it would simply vanish into what could have been territory. Fans' reactions to these reports were mixed. Many of us in the Assassin's Creed community felt disappointed and even frustrated. This concept sounded like a refreshing and bold direction for the series, something that could tackle new themes and tell an important story. On social media and forums, you can find fans saying Ubisoft should not have caved to fear and should have trusted players to handle mature historical content. Some even used colorful language to express their anger at the cancellation. Of course, there are others who understand why Ubisoft got cold feet, given how volatile reactions can be. But the consensus among a lot of AC enthusiasts is that it's a shame we might never get to play this game. Tencent's involvement, a new hope. Alright, so the game was canned. But here's where things get interesting. In 2022 and onward, there were big changes behind the scenes at Ubisoft. By 2025, Ubisoft announced a new partnership with the Chinese tech giant Tencent that could change the fate of projects like Assassin's Creed. Tencent invested heavily in Ubisoft and in fact helped launch a new subsidiary called Ubisoft Vantage, a creative house set up to oversee the future of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. Tencent took about a 25% stake in this new venture with an investment of roughly 1.16 billion euros, becoming a key partner in Ubisoft's flagship franchises. Essentially, part of Ubisoft, especially the Assassin's Creed brand, has been backed by Tencent's resources. This was a strategic move to streamline development and inject fresh energy and funds into Ubisoft's biggest series. Now, you might wonder, what does a corporate partnership have to do with a cancelled AC game? Well, the hope, as some fans see it, is that Tencent's involvement could encourage Ubisoft to revisit bold ideas like the Civil War project with a new influx of cash and a new management structure. Vantage Studios, Ubisoft might feel more confident taking risks, knowing they have solid backing. Tencent is known for investing in a wide array of game companies, often pushing for ambitious big content games. After all, more content means more revenue. It's possible that Tencent's influence could make Ubisoft leadership rethink previous cancellations. If Tencent wants Ubisoft to expand Assassin's Creed and keep it exciting, they might be more open to greenlighting projects that were once deemed too risky. In fact, around the same time as this restructuring, we saw some leadership shakeups in the Assassin's Creed team. Longtime franchise executive Marc-Alexis Cote left Ubisoft in late 2025, just after the Civil War project's cancellation news broke. He reportedly even declined to take a leadership role in the new Vantage Studios, suggesting Ubisoft wanted a team aligned with its core goals for AC going forward. A new leadership team, backed by Tencent's investment, could signal a different approach and willingness to innovate. We don't know yet who's calling the shots creatively, but there's definitely a shakeup in progress. So could Assassin's Creed Civil War be resurrected? Ubisoft hasn't made any public statements about reviving the project. Remember, officially, they never even acknowledged it existed. Analysts have been cautious, with some noting that given the current US political climate, Ubisoft might still avoid that setting for now. One gaming news source flat out said they wouldn't bet on it happening soon. However, anything is possible. The gaming industry has a funny way of bringing ideas back. Projects get rebooted, concepts find new life in other forms, or companies change their minds when the timing is right. The good news is that we know the idea for an AC set in this era exists and had support from developers internally. It's not hard to imagine that a few years down the line, maybe when the social climate is a bit different or if there's a loud enough fan demand, Ubisoft could dust off the concept of Assassin's Creed in the Civil War reconstruction setting. Tencent's backing might ensure Ubisoft has the financial stability to take such a risk when the time comes. For now, of course, this is speculation and hope. The reality is that as of 2025, Assassin's Creed Civil War remains a cancelled project, but the spark isn't completely dead. As fans, we'll keep our fingers crossed and voices heard. Maybe we'll see this premise revived as a full game, a spin-off, or even a story arc within Ubisoft's upcoming Assassin's Creed titles. Ubisoft has that Assassin's Creed Infinity hub in the works. Perhaps a future episode of it could explore this concept. Only time will tell. Alright, let's indulge our imagination for a moment. Suppose Ubisoft does decide to move forward with the Civil War Assassin's Creed concept in the future. What could the story and gameplay look like? Based on the info from the leaks and a bit of creative speculation, here's how I picture it. Setting and protagonist. The game would open in the late Civil War or immediate post-war period, 1865-ish. You might start as an enslaved person on a plantation, experiencing the brutality of slavery in an opening sequence that establishes the hero's origin and motivation. The Civil War's end brings freedom. Perhaps Union soldiers liberate the area, or the hero escapes amid the chaos. Fast forward a bit, and our protagonist is trying to build a new life as a free man. He travels out west, maybe to places like Kansas, Texas, or the frontier territories to get away from the scars of the war. This is where the Assassin Brotherhood comes in. Perhaps he encounters a veteran assassin mentor, maybe a Native American or former Underground Railroad member who is secretly an assassin who recognizes the hero's strength and thirst for justice. Under this mentor, the hero trains and becomes an assassin himself, learning the creed and those badass parkour and combat skills we love. The call to adventure. Just as our new assassin is finding his footing, trouble brews back east. The Reconstruction era is in full swing. Newly freed black citizens are voting, holding office, and building communities, but they're under threat by violent groups, the Ku Klux Klan being the worst of them, and by powerful figures who want to restore the old order. Here's where the Templars enter the picture. In classic AC fashion, we discover that behind the scenes of Reconstruction, a faction of Templars is manipulating events. They might be Southern shadow figures, ex-Confederate officials, or businessmen who join the KKK or fund other militias as a cover for their Templar schemes. Their goal: to sow chaos, oppress the freed people, and regain control over the new American order. Essentially use fear and violence to impose a Templar vision of peace, which in their twisted view means maintaining the old hierarchy. The Assassin Brotherhood, valuing freedom above all, cannot let that happen. Our protagonist is called home. He must return to the Deep South to help counter this threat. Perhaps he receives a letter or message from an ally in his former hometown pleading for help as things turn dangerous. Despite knowing the personal danger and trauma of returning, he embraces his duty as an assassin to fight for his people. Now the game truly begins, with the player venturing through a mix of frontier landscapes and war-torn southern states. Imagine parkouring across the rooftops of a Reconstruction-era southern city like New Orleans, Atlanta, or Charleston. The architecture could provide amazing variety, from grand plantation manors and cotton mills to newly built freedmen's schools and courthouses protected by Union troops. We might also explore rural areas, burned out battlefields, swamps and bayous, perfect for stealthy swamp assassinations, and small towns where tension hangs in the air. Historical figures could appear as allies or targets. I could easily see missions involving figures like Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman, who by this time was involved in activism and intelligence work, as assassin-aligned characters giving you quests to protect vulnerable communities or escort important convoys. Perhaps President Ulysses S. Grant or other Reconstruction leaders would be indirectly involved. Maybe the assassins work to foil a Templar plot to assassinate a northern politician or to spark a second conflict. The game might even reference real events like the rise of the KKK in Tennessee or violent incidents such as the Colfax Massacre of 1873, weaving the player's story through those happenings in the way AC games often do with history. Taking on the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan would likely serve as one of the primary enemy factions, and you can bet the game would not pull punches depicting them as brutal villains. Picture wearing the iconic assassin hood and stalking through the night as hooded Klan members patrol a little village. Terrorizing people, stealth gameplay would be intense here. You might eavesdrop on a Klan meeting to identify a Grand Wizard leader, then assassinate him from the shadows. An especially thrilling mission might be infiltrating a KKK rally / cross-burning out in a field. You'd have to slip past armed thugs, maybe use period-appropriate gadgets, throwing knives, a single-shot Derringer pistol, smoke bombs, and then take down the head honcho who, in true AC fashion, might reveal some Templar ideology in a dramatic confession scene after you defeat him. The imagery of a hooded assassin taking out KKK members under the cover of darkness. It gives me chills, in a good way. It'd be both cathartic and symbolically potent tools in combat. Given the time period, 1860s to 70s, we'd likely see a mix of traditional melee and the dawn of modern weaponry. The hero could wield Civil War sabers, Bowie knives, or even a tomahawk, reflecting a blend of cultures and his personal journey. Firearms are tricky in AC, but similar to Assassin's Creed Creed the 3s or Unity, we could have single-shot revolvers or rifles for occasional use. Imagine sniping a distant guard with a period rifle, then quickly switching to the hidden blade to silently dispatch another. Perhaps the iconic hidden blade would be joined by new gadgets like rudimentary dynamite for creating distractions or blowing up obstacles, or a lasso whip to trip and disarm enemies on horseback. Also, the late 1800s setting opens up possibilities like early trains. Maybe a show-stopping set-piece mission on a moving train. AC loves those, where you fight on train rooftops or carriages to stop a Templar heist of a powerful artifact assassin versus Templar story. At its core, the narrative would likely mirror the classic Assassin-Templar conflict. The Templars, exploiting racist organizations and corrupt officials, want to impose order through fear and take away the newfound freedoms, because in their mind, freedom equals chaos. The Assassins, with our protagonist at the forefront, fight for liberty and the rights of the common people. There might be a particularly charismatic Templar villain, say a former Confederate general, or a cunning politician who leads the secret Templar cabal. He could be the big bad orchestrating the clan and other groups, and he might also be searching for a piece of Eden, one of those ancient artifacts that survived the Civil War, which he believes can help him control the populace. Our hero would then be racing not just to stop violence, but to secure the piece of Eden before the Templars use it to cement their power. This would tie the grand historical drama into the larger AC mythos. Perhaps the final act of the game would see an epic showdown at a symbolic location. Imagine a battle in Washington, D.C. where the assassin has to infiltrate a ceremony, maybe the Centennial Exposition of 1876 or something, to stop the Templars' endgame plot emotional journey. Story-wise, this game could be very powerful. We'd witness our hero's personal growth from a victim of oppression to a master assassin fighting oppression. There could be heart-wrenching moments, like returning to his hometown to find old friends or family in peril. The writers might give him a tragic backstory. Perhaps his family was split up or killed by slavers or Templars, fueling a quest for justice and closure. Along the journey, he might struggle with the Creed's tenets, stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent, etc. When faced with the sheer hatred of groups like the KKK, this could lead to some great character development as he balances vengeance versus justice. Maybe he initially wants to just eliminate all the evildoers in revenge, but his mentor and Creed teachings guide him towards a higher purpose of protecting the innocent and building a better future, not just revenge. By the end, he could become a leader figure who helps establish a lasting assassin presence in the region, ensuring that the fight for freedom continues even as Reconstruction sadly comes to an end historically. Now, all of that is my own speculation based on the bits of plot we heard and general AC lore vibes. But doesn't it sound amazing? The possibility of exploring such a setting in an Assassin's Creed game has me, and many of you I'm sure, daydreaming about what could have been. It's precisely because it sounds so compelling that we're even more bummed Ubisoft iced the project. Still, writing all this out, I can't help feeling hopeful that one day we'll get to play some version of this. So to wrap it all up, Assassin's Creed Civil War, aka Project Scarlet, is one of the coolest Assassin's Creed games we never got. A cancelled concept that dared to tackle the tumultuous Reconstruction era with a black assassin hero. Ubisoft cancelled it in 2024 over fears of controversy, leaving fans wondering what might have been. But with Tencent now in the picture and Ubisoft shaking things up, there's a ray of hope that this bold idea could resurface in the future. For now, it remains a what if. But never say never. The Assassin's Creed franchise is always evolving, and who knows, maybe a few years from now, we'll get an announcement that makes us all freak out with joy, confirming that this long-lost concept is being revived in some form. I personally think this game would be incredible, not just as an AC title, but as a meaningful narrative in its own right. The setting is rich with untold stories, and it would show a side of history games rarely spotlight. Ubisoft has a chance to do something brave and unique here if they choose. What do you think? Should Ubisoft have gone ahead with Assassin's Creed Civil War? Would you like to see this game revived now that Tencent is on board? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadowy corners of Assassin's Creed history, please smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more content on your favorite games. I cover a lot of Assassin's Creed news, lore, and speculation, so you won't want to miss out on upcoming videos, especially if any news breaks about this Civil War concept making a comeback. As always, thank you so much for watching and sticking with me till the end. Your support means everything. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.